Hi there, y'all. I'm Deb Matlock from Wild Rhythms, and I just wanted to make a short video here answering some of the most frequently asked questions I get regarding the program I call Your Wild Calling, which is a 7-month cohort-based program focused on helping practitioners of all kinds, educators, healers, coaches, clergy members, holistic practitioners, people who want to create their own unique, passion-driven, and deeply connected body of nature connection work to offer your clients and communities. So I created this program. I've got this question a lot. Why did you create this program? I created it because I wanted to find this program a few years ago. And I look at it as kind of a combination of um, personal journey and professional development, professional training. And so in my mind, to create your own unique nature connection work, you've got to bring your full self to the table, your own eco-spiritual journey, your sense of connection to the wild natural world, the more than human world. What is it that fuels you, and why are you sitting here today as somebody who cares and wants to offer and share with others? So, the first part of the training really kind of focuses on those pieces. We also bring in some theoretical concepts that often get stuck behind the walls of academia, truthfully. I have a pretty solid academic background, and I love these concepts, and they're not out there in the world in the practitioner fields as much as they should be. So we'll dig into deep ecology, spiritual ecology, various concepts within ecopsychology, bioregionalism, place-based education. We'll touch on these things a little bit so that you have the knowledge, the background to build on those. So if you really resonate with one of them, for example, you can know what's available to you to support you as a practitioner, as a professional, as you're creating your work and as you're offering your work and as you're working with people. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in nature connection in the world, as it's been more and more popular, which is great. I love that there's more and more programs and more schools and more interest. And a whole lot of it kind of stops at a surface level because I think it's not necessarily attached to some of these deeper theoretical concepts. Some of them, are quite frankly very ancient. They're deep within our bones, our genomes, our makeup as humans. And so that's an important part to me. And so also we'll weave in, program design, evaluation, facilitation, some of the logistical things like that that are also very unique. One facilitation style is not the same as another. One place in time, one group of people doesn't need the same facilitation technique as another place and time and group of people. So as practitioners, we want to have a wide toolbox of facilitation opportunities at our fingertips. How do we do this? How do we develop ourselves to be able to basically facilitate pretty much anything anywhere, and enjoy it. And then also this program, it's really important to me that you all come and get something and go out and have something tangible. So, if somebody's willing to put in the work, it's very realistic and often happens with people in this program that they end up with a an offering of some kind. The signature body of nature connection work that this is about creating is as a lifelong process. I think once we dig into our passions and really start to ask ourselves the questions of what is it that fuels this work? Why is this important? Who am I serving? That's an ongoing journey. But in our 7 months together, I really want everybody to have some pieces they can be offering and practicing with and playing with communities and clients and all that. So that's a little bit of why the program exists. It was something, like I said, that I was looking for, but also I kept getting requests from people like, do you have a training? Do you have this? And I thought, you know what? Okay, there's a hole here that needs to be filled. And it's not something that everybody interested in and just sort of leading a nature hike is going to be interested in. This program is really for people who are serious about saying, all right, I have a lot to offer here, a lot of passion, and I really want to create something unique that is unlike anything else. So that's kind of who this is geared towards. Some of the examples of people who've taken it before, I've had wellness coaches, environmental educators, homeopathic practitioners, herbalists. I had retreat leaders um, have come, yoga instructors. So for example, like who is this for? Let's say you're somebody who leads wellness retreats and you have either your yoga retreats or like writing retreats or something like that. And maybe you have a nature hike that you put in the retreat, or you'd like to put one in. This is a program that can help you to develop that. Sure, you can go out and hike with your group of people, but you can also develop it a little more, integrate it more into the overall flow and curriculum of all of your work, and have it be a meaningfully well-designed piece of what you do. So that's one thing. Wellness practitioners of all kinds who are interested in that nature piece could be part of this. Educators who would like to create maybe their own curriculum or their own, subset of a work. Maybe you're in a school or you're in a nature center or community center, and there maybe already is some nature-based environmental ed, but you'd like to create something that's pulling your passions and interests in and package it up and be able to offer it. So that's another person who might be interested in this. Counselors, I've had several people who are counselors who want to do whether they want to take their clients outside or they want to start adding in nature-based retreats or nature-based workshops or, just some kind of integration of the natural world into what they're doing. That's another person. I've also had several people who've done quite a lot of trainings, who are experienced and leading people outside, but are feeling a yearning to create something very unique. I've had a lot of forest bathing guides, a lot of practitioners like that, somatic ecotherapists and people who have, kind of a lovely buffet of experience, and now they're ready to pull pieces from all of that and weave it into their own new package. So that's just a little tidbit. And if you're wondering if you fit into this, like reach out to me and we can talk. I think this program has a lot of breadth to encompass a lot of different backgrounds. It's not exactly a beginner's program. So like if you've never had any interest, this is your first, like that could be fun. Maybe I should do that. Let's definitely talk first and just sort of see, because I want to make sure that, you know, you would know what you're getting into here, because we'll move at a reasonable clip, because a lot of people who come to this do have some experience either with having a business and having an audience, or they've done, you know, led hikes for a local nature center, or, but again, everybody's different. Everybody's experience is very different. Everybody's background is very different, which kind of makes the cohorts really very lovely and wonderful. Another question I get, which is just how does this work logistically? This is a quote unquote virtual program. But one thing I want to say about that is that this is a field-based program. So while we aren't all convening together at the same location in the field, you are, you're connecting with your land and the wild places around you, places where you might work or maybe you already work. So the program kind of structure is every other week there's an hour and a half Zoom meeting where we'll come together, and that there's two cohorts of that. There's a morning and an evening one, hopefully to accommodate time zones across the globe. Um, and those are really interactive. And, I try really hard to keep those as much as possible, things we can only do together. If it's just me talking, I could create a video and I could share that with y'all. So our Zoom meetings are, discussions and activities and reflections and working together, and spotlights, where one person at a time will get everybody's, eyes and mind on their project kind of thing. So those are very interactive. There's also an online platform, which is a place for resources, a place to share back and forth with each other. It is where I'll put videos and other supportive materials, and that part is it's on Circle, the community site called Circle. So it's felt really pretty user friendly. I mean, I like it, and I don't have a high tolerance for complicated technology. So, and then there's a whole lot of field-based activities and time on your own that's kind of guided by the activities in the course. So, the way I look at it is the wild natural world is as much a part of this as all the people, myself included, that are involved in it. I recommend people have, 2 to 3 hours a week to commit to this. Some people it may not be every week. Like I've had people in the past who blocked out one weekend a month and just said, okay, that's my weekend to work on this. But between the activities and the work you'll be doing, designing your own programs and your own, pulling your pieces together of your signature program, also the field-based components of actually getting out in the natural world, journaling and doing a myriad of activities. I would say a minimum of 2 to 3 hours a week. You could certainly spend more. But if you're really don't have, any time at all, it's going to probably be frustrating to you to be in it, just because, you can get a lot more out of this if there's a little bit of space. And so then I've also had people ask, what what can we expect to actually get from this, which is a really important question. And what I want people to get is threefold. I kind of actually think of it as a braid, honestly. A deeper sense of your eco-spiritual self and how that relates to your world as a practitioner, as a professional. So there's a lot of that personal piece, ecological identity, eco-psychology, some pieces there. Another part of the braid is the logistics, the how do we design programs in a way that is engaging. There is more to leading a nature hike than just getting on a trail, a whole lot more. There is more to building a program. If we're doing indoor nature connection work, there's more to building that program than just bringing in rocks and pine cones, although that's a lovely thing. There's more to crafting a package that is an actual experience for your participants. There's more about working in wild collaboration with the natural world and integrating the voice of the more than human world. That is a really important part of all the work I do and definitely of this class. So there's that very logistical kind of nuts and bolts. Let's do this thing. Let's roll up our sleeves and do it. And then there's also the doing it and reviewing it and revising it and getting practical feedback on that. And to accomplish these goals, there's the Zoom calls, the online platform. There are private sessions. Everybody would get 3 private sessions with me, one-on-one, hour long, with the option to buy additional ones if you want at a substantially discounted rate over the regular public price. So if you're somebody who really flourishes with the private sessions, you can build up your program with those if you want to. But everybody has 3. I like to start and end with one and then have one kind of whenever it's necessary for you in the middle as well. And then there's also going to be, I have an unlimited back and forth with documents. So, for example, if you're working on a bunch of like say you're designing a multi-day program and you've got a Google Doc going, we can be going back and forth on that kind of in between all of the Zoom calls and all of that. And that's actually a really important value add. And when I've seen people use that part, they get a lot more out of the course than the people who never submit anything for review and feedback. And we'll talk more about that when the course starts. But I love that actually. I really love creating programs. And it's a way to kind of extend the personal sessions because we can be going back and forth on our own time and our own schedule. So I hope that that's helpful. Those are just a few of the common questions. Anybody who's interested in this program, I'll put the website below in the show notes for this video, but also I get on the phone with everybody or on Zoom for, just a few minutes at least to make sure that you have all your questions answered and that, we are kind of in agreement that this is a good fit for what your goals are. It's more important to me that this is a program that fits for everybody, than it is a program that just sells out. It's very small. I have 2 cohorts, but they're both very small. This is not a 30, 40 person program, partly because it takes a lot of personal time from me, and I want to be able to get invested in everybody's projects. And if I had, 80 to 100 people going through this thing, I would never be able to keep it all straight. So anyway, I hope this is helpful, and I would really love to talk with you if you are interested or wondering if this might be a fit for you. I'm happy to help with that discernment process. All the information's online. There's definitely no pressure when we get on a call. It's really just to see what is the right fit and what are you trying to accomplish. And I'll be honest, if this is not the place where this can be accomplished, I can probably recommend some other options to you because I have a lot of colleagues I know about a lot of programs, and I'm happy to share that. So anyway, thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to talking with you all about this program.